Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Junia, and today I want to talk to you about different scary health conditions, diseases. I have another episode of Obsession with Dr. House, and I just like diseases, medicine, biology in general, so I want to talk to you about this today. I hope you like it. If there are any medical professionals that watch this video, if I say something incorrectly, feel free to correct me. And the first three diseases that I have are Prion diseases. All Prion diseases are fatal. You cannot cure them. So, Prion diseases are fast progressing, fast moving, fatal brain disorders caused by mishap in proteins. They are proteins in our brain that misfold in a wrong way. If our brain cannot detect it on time and put that misfolded protein in like a trash can, get it out, there might be like a chain reaction, and gradually all the proteins, similar proteins, start misfolding as well, and your brain start looking like a sponge because it's like a brain atrophy. To me, all of these diseases are scary for multiple reasons. First, it is uncurable, which is very scary. Imagine the feeling of doom, the imminent death that threatens me. I'm very scared of death, and just I'm a trypophobe, like I'm afraid of like these like weird openings. So this sponge-like texture on pictures looks very scary. I like my brain. I hope I never get a disease like that in you too, guys. So the first Prion disease that I have is Kuru. You might have heard about it because I think people use it to scare other people. It is not popular nowadays at all. And when it was somewhat prevalent, it only happened in Papua New Guinea among the 4 people, the tribe there. So these people traditionally had a mortuary ritual when they were consuming the dead body of their deceased relative. Up to I think 80% of all the patients were women and children, because during these gatherings men would eat like flesh, muscle, and women and kids were eating brain, because brain is basically fat, so very nutritious. So the first time your body gets introduced to this protein, it starts the process in your own brain, and you die. You cannot be cured. So Kuru initially causes problems with coordination and balance. Patients develop an unstable gait, tremors, involuntary movements, difficulty speaking, difficulty swallowing, progressive inability to walk. There was a thing name for this. For Kuru, people were calling it laughing disease because one of the symptoms was uncontrollable laugh of the patient. But as I understand, it wasn't universal. It just it depends on your brain area where the proteins start misfolding. So sometimes it was in the parts that were responsible for like tickling sensations, emotions. So that's why people would start laughing uncontrollably. Eventually, the patient becomes unable to stand, eat, or care for themselves. One of the most remarkable characteristics is its extremely long incubation period. Studies found people developing Kuru more than 30 or 50 years later. So even though the last case was reported in 2005, I imagine there still might be, I hope not. At its peak in 1940s, 50s, mortality in some affected villages reached about 35 deaths per 1,000 people per year. That's a lot. After mortuary cannibalism ended in the 50s, the epidemic gradually disappeared. Only 11 new patients were identified during active surveillance from 1996 to 2004. The last reported case, 2005. Again, no treatment, no cure, no documented recovery. All of the Prion diseases seem scary to me, but this one is especially because of cannibalism. Our Western mentality cannot really process that, right? It is scary. The next Prion disease is Creutzfeldt-Jakob, CJD. Another Prion disease, but unlike Kuru, it can occur spontaneously. So most cases are sporadic CJD, meaning the abnormal Prion process seems to start spontaneously without a clear external cause. A random mutation in PRNP gene, very rare. And another variant is CJD, which is different disease associated with exposure to BSE or mad cow disease. So it technically works like Kuru, but you don't have to eat another person. You just have to eat beef. And people like eating beef. I ate it earlier today, so it is scary. There was an epidemic in the UK. They had to get rid of tons and tons of beef. Classic CJD usually begins in older adulthood. Symptoms progress extraordinarily quickly. Memory deterioration, personality and behavioral changes, problems with coordination, visual abnormalities, involuntary muscle jerks, difficulty speaking and walking, severe dementia. So you cannot treat Prion diseases. You can just give people painkillers and antidepressants to help them to process the imminence of death, which is super scary to me when I think about it. If I was told that I was about to die, and again this spongy structure of your brain, how common, roughly 1 to 2 people per million per year develop CJD. That's a lot. CDC estimates about 500 to 600 cases annually in the United States. Very scary. Always fatal. So there are people who remain alive for several years after symptoms begin, particularly with slower subtypes, but this is prolonged survival rather than recovery. If you work in meat industry, please be careful. Your job is very important. Okay, regulate that meat. The next Prion disease is fatal familial insomnia. So the name of it might make you think that people just stop sleeping and that's why they die, but it's a little bit more complicated. So it is again a particular mutation in PRNP gene, like with Creutzfeldt-Jakob, but there is a different part of the gene, D178N mutation, okay, associated with methionine and codon 129. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so it is inherited in an autosomal dominant pattern. Therefore, a child of a parent carrying the pathogenic mutation generally has a 50% chance of inheriting that mutation. I think I watched a video about this disease and they talked about a young woman, kind of like my age, that witnessed her parents die, and then she started developing the first symptoms. That is so scary, horrible. The disease strongly damages the thalamus, a brain region involved in regulating sleep, consciousness, autonomic functions, and communication between different parts of the brain. So first you notice increasingly abnormal sleep, and then normal sleep architecture collapses completely. But then you start having abnormal blood pressure, rapid heartbeat, excessive sweating, abnormal body temperature regulation, weight loss, hallucinations, balance, cognitive decline, dementia, basically. Overall, dramatic neurological deterioration. So, sleeping medications cannot restore sleep, and you cannot cure it in any way. Just give painkillers, that's all. Thanks God it is extremely rare. So it is estimated in less than 1 person per million. Okay, only hundreds of genetically documented patients have been described in the medical literature. The average age of onset in one worldwide review was approximately 47.5 years, but there are cases starting from 17 to 76. Average disease duration is usually about 13 months, with reported courses ranging from approximately 2 to 48 months. I don't know what kind of quality of life you have at the end. Must be very hard. I hope they figure it out, the Prion disease, because it's time, okay? It's time. The next one I have is rabies. I probably sound like Michael from Office. If you watched that show, The Office, the episode where he was fundraising for rabies. But to me, it is very scary. There are not many people dying in first and second world countries, but to me it is still very scary. So it is a virus infection of the central nervous system caused by lyssavirus group. Humans usually get infected through saliva, through a bite, scratch, if they had an open wound. Now 99% of all rabies cases are because of dogs. Dogs are responsible for 99%. But in the US, I saw that there were a lot of bats cases as well. So the unusual thing is the incubation period, not 50 years like with Kuru, but still can be up to, like, nobody knows, a year, a few months. So the virus slowly travels along peripheral nerves towards the brain, and once it reaches the central nervous system, it causes encephalitis, the inflammation of your brain. The disease often begins with fever, headache, weakness, and an unusual burning, tingling, or painful sensation around the original bite. It then progresses to neurological symptoms in the classic furious form, which is rabies is the same root, like the etymology of the word rabies is furious, like rage, I imagine. In Russian we call it the rage, the disease rabies. Patients develop agitation, hallucinations, confusion, excessive salivation, and hydrophobia. So it's not really like a psychological hydrophobia, because I heard that people, I don't know if they do have fear of water, even like looking at ocean pictures or when they hear water. But hydrophobia means that they have uncontrollable spasms of their throat. They cannot swallow. Later it can even cause like problem breathing, because these spasms also do not let the air flow into your body. But the reason why you cannot swallow with rabies is because the main way to transmit this virus is by saliva getting on a bite, on a wound. And if you swallow the saliva with the virus, so you are diluting the percentage of the virus in your saliva. So no water means more virus in your saliva. I couldn't really understand it before, but now it makes sense. So gradually people get paralyzed, go to coma, die. There is no cure, technically. After you already have your first symptoms, you are cooked. There are less than 10 documented cases of people surviving, extremely rare, and they basically stayed in a vegetable state. They did not become normal again. WHO estimates roughly 59,000 human deaths every year. It is a lot. Overwhelmingly, okay, mostly in Africa and Asia, people do not have access to vaccines. In the United States, human rabies is extremely rare, typically fewer than 10 cases annually. True. So is there a way to treat it? Yes, before you get to your first symptoms. So you get bitten, you go bitten. You go to a doctor, you say, I was bitten by a very angry dog. Please give me a vaccine. And the vaccine is a small, weak form of the rabies virus that is gonna make you invincible towards the original rabies virus. I know that I imagine that most of vets, like veterinary animal doctors, are receiving this vaccine before they start working. Maybe not in the US because it's so rare here, but I don't know. I think in Russia, most of animal doctors get that before the symptoms. It is highly preventable, but still scary to me. So the next disease that I have is leprosy. Very cultural, okay, biblical characters. That used to be very popular, had a very strong historical reputation. It caused mainly by the bacterium Mycobacterium leprae. The bacteria grow extremely slow, and symptoms can take years to appear. It primarily attacks peripheral nerves, skin, eyes, and nasal tissues. So first, usually people start getting like pale patches on their skin that lose sensibility. So first it's like you touch it, you kind of feel that your arm was asleep, okay, and then you can put needles in it, no sensation. Gradually it might take years, but you lose sensitivity in your hands and feet. Injuries, infections can damage fingers and toes. You get burns all over your body. Leprosy patients were always demorphed, and everyone was afraid of them. So to me, it is especially scary because I think of, they even have like leprosorium, like special hospitals where they would put these patients because nobody wants to get that as well. They couldn't really treat it in the past. I know that Che Guevara, as a medical student, was doing traveling across South America, and he was staying in leprosoriums, leprosoriums, like these hospitals to treat the patients and just to for bed and breakfast, which is very badass, I think. So historically, people thought that leprosy actually makes you lose your limbs, your fingers, but the bacteria on its own didn't cause the fall of the fingers. It just because of the chronic nerve damage, your tissue gradually was gradually destructed, and eventually you have no feeling. My finger came off. Okay. Untreated disease can also produce muscle weakness, paralysis, eye damage, and permanent disability. So I always thought that leprosy was extremely contagious. That's why they would ostracize infected people from the society, but it's supposedly not very contagious. Transmission generally requires prolonged close contact with an untreated infected person, probably through respiratory droplets. So you kind of have to, I don't know, speak very passionately or have like French kisses or something. Casual contact such as shaking hands is not normally sufficient. So because it is a bacterial disease, we cure it with antibiotics. Now people use a mixture of medications like rifampicin, dapsone, and clofazimine. You have to take those for 6 to 12 months. Very reversible, very curable nowadays. But if you had a very bad nerve damage, it might be irreversible. The next disease that I have is measles. It probably doesn't sound that scary, especially like, I don't know, I think measles is a funny word, like phonetically, don't you think? But it also causes a very bad skin conditions. You are basically covered with small sores, nodules, and it is one of the most contagious human infections ever known to date. Okay. The virus spreads through the air when an infected person coughs, sneezes, breathes. Very easy. It is so contagious that a susceptible person entering a room where an infected person was recently present can become infected. Symptoms usually begin around 7 to 14 days after exposure. High fever, cough, runny nose, red irritated eyes. So far, that sounds very common. Just a cold. Tiny white Koplik spots inside the mouth, and eventually a widespread red rash. Most healthy people recover, but measles temporarily suppresses parts of the immune system and can produce serious complications. So, 1 in 20 children that are infected with measles start developing pneumonia, and 1 in 1,000 encephalitis, which causes 1 to 3 of every 1,000 infected children die in the US. Imagine the rate is much higher in Pakistan or Congo. So measles are still very common. World Health Organization estimates approximately 11 million measles infections worldwide in 2024 and 95,000 deaths, mostly among young unvaccinated or vaccinated children. Vaccinate your children from measles. It is one of the oldest and most popular vaccines. Nowadays, most of the people survive, but again, they don't die because of the measles itself, but because your body becomes weak and you start developing other issues. Why is it scary for me? My great-grandmother told me about her friend that died of measles, and the way she described her back full covered with these pimples or rash. I measles. I kind of. Good thing I'm not a child anymore, and I was vaccinated. Another infectious disease that I have on the list is plague. Okay, very common. Plague is caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis. It is the same disease responsible for the medieval Black Death. So why was it called Black Death? Because of one of the major forms that are represented by plague. So there is bubonic plague. It usually begins with an infected flea bite. That's how people were getting infected in medieval Europe, because there were a lot of rats, a lot of fleas. You get bitten by a flea, and you develop fever, weakness, headache, and extremely painful swollen lymph nodes. Scary. The other form is septicemic plague. Occurs when the bacteria multiply in the bloodstream. It can cause severe sepsis, internal bleeding, shock, and tissue death. So it would mean that your tissue, your skin, your body would turn black because the body is dying. That's why it got its name, Black Death. And there is also a pneumonic plague. It affects the lungs. Patients can develop severe pneumonia, chest pain, difficulty breathing, and bloody sputum. Unlike ordinary bubonic plague, pneumonic plague can spread directly between humans. So no bites, you just cough and breathe. Without treatment, septicemic and pneumonic plague are especially dangerous. WHO estimates untreated plague can have a fatality rate of 30 to 100%, with untreated pneumonic plague approaching 100%. So if we didn't have antibiotics, it would basically be like rabies. It is scary because it is developing super fast. The speed is frightening. Untreated pneumonic plague can become fatal within roughly 18 to 24 hours after the first severe symptoms develop. It is very, very fast. 18, 24. Nowadays, thankfully, we do not have as many cases. Very uncommon compared to the Middle Ages. So, for example, in the United States, the CDC reports an average of only about 7 human cases per year. The main modern endemic areas include parts of Madagascar, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Peru. Again, it is a bacteria, so we treat patients with antibiotics. It's like a North American thing to say antibiotics, because I used to say antibiotics, but then I heard everyone saying antibiotics, so I started saying that. I don't know. I actually like anti more because it's a little bit more aggressive. It has a little bit more anti in it. So again, with prompt antibiotics, most patients survive. But historically, we still have up to 9% of mortality. So again, thankfully, we have antibiotics, so we can treat so many diseases that were incurable in the past. Syphilis, gonorrhea, did I just say plague? Leprosy. But guys, it will stop working if everyone continues taking antibiotics without prescription, or not taking them if you are prescribed. So please be conscious with your antibiotics intake, okay? I think in Russia a lot of people buy and take antibiotics without prescription. They have a cold, they can have like a cold sore, like herpes on their lip, and they go buy antibiotics. You have a virus, okay? You cannot treat a virus with antibiotics. That's why it is, I think everyone should kinda understand how what kind of diseases and how we can cure them, so they don't make stupid mistakes like that. Okay, I'm sorry, just very sensitive topic to me. And the next one is cholera. In Russian it's cholera. So cholera is caused by toxin producing strains of Vibrio cholerae. The bacteria are usually acquired from contaminated water or food. I think most of the time it would just be like an animal that died in a pond where like the whole village would get the water from, or a well. Something falls and dies there. So you drink the water, you get infected. The bacteria remain largely in the intestines rather than invading tissues throughout the body. Their toxin causes intestinal cells to release huge amounts of water and electrolytes. So the classic severe symptom is enormous quantities of watery diarrhea, known historically as rice water stool. A severely ill patient can lose liters of fluid extraordinarily rapidly. Consequences include extreme thirst, muscle cramps, low blood pressure, rapid heartbeat, kidney failure, death. So the cholera itself does not cause death. You die because of dehydration. Again, a massive loss of water and electrolytes. To me, cholera is scary because I read a few books where they talked about cholera. The first one was like "Жизнь как на ладони," life on a palm. I'm not sure. It was about a young boy from a village in like beginning of 20th century Tsarist Russia, and his whole family died of cholera. The way it was described, it was very scary. And then I also read veil. What kind of veil? Painted Veil. The Painted Veil. I think it is a British book, and they were in China, I think, the characters, and also the way they explained they described the epidemic. And then we watched a movie. It was like a class reading thing. Very scary. Imagine you are in a hospital that is full of puking and shitting patients. Everyone is just exhausted, sweaty, surrounded by poopy water. Very scary. So WHO estimates roughly 1.3 to 4 million infections and 21,000 to 143,000 deaths every year. That's a very wide range of deaths. 21,000 and 143,000. A lot. The difference treatment makes is dramatic. So without treatment, the mortality is 50%. And with prompt fluid and electrolyte replacement, so like with, how do you call it, IV, when they put electrolytes through your vein, okay, mortality can be reduced to below 1%. Very nice. So this is why everyone should have access to purified water. Everyone is entitled to pure water, okay? And I think, yeah, but this is the last one on my list for today, guys. A very long name. It is Fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva, FOP. So it is very different from all the diseases that I mentioned earlier. It is a genetic disorder purely, which causes the body form mature bone in places where bone should never exist. To me, it is a scary disease because I was always afraid of Medusa from Greek mythology. I imagine a person becoming one like single bone, like a stone. It is scary to me. It is usually caused by a mutation in the ACVR1 gene, which disrupts signaling involved in bone formation. Most affected children are born looking relatively healthy, except for a characteristic abnormality of the big toes. During childhood, painful swellings called flare-ups begin to appear. After a flare-up, muscle, tendons, ligaments start becoming bones. They start being replaced by mature bones. Over years, bridges of extra bone form between parts of the skeleton. Joints gradually become fixed. Neck movement can disappear, so you cannot move your neck. Shoulders and arms become restricted. Hips and knees can lock. The jaw may become unable to open. Eventually, many patients require wheelchairs. I'm very scared of losing mobility in general, but the thing with actually feeling like your body hardens and like you become like a stone, it is very scary to me. I hope I'm not like, I do not sound like I am against or I'm not empathetical to people who have any of these conditions, and I do not think that they are still humans and deserve treatment and respect. I think everyone deserves being treated, getting medical health and all of that. It's just, to me, every disease is scary. I hope nobody is sick, okay? I cannot control it, but unfortunately people get sick. So, injury make FOP worse. Biopsies, operations, intramuscular injections, falls, and other soft tissue trauma can trigger new bone formation. So you fall, instead of a bruise, you get a bone. Trying to surgically remove the extra bone may therefore cause even more bone to grow. It is very rare, so modern estimates put prevalence at roughly 0.6 to 1.36 cases per million, so approximately 1 in a million. That would make like 350 people in the US, right? Yeah, if we just talk about numbers. Older estimates often quoted about 1 in 2 million, so they were not able to diagnose it. FOP is not immediately fatal, and people can live for decades. A historical international study estimated a median lifespan of about 56 years. Not that bad, right? Although the severity can change. The most important cause of premature death is usually thoracic insufficiency syndrome, extra bone and spinal chest deformities, restrict expansion of the chest, and eventually it leads to problems with breathing, respiratory, and cardiovascular issues, cardiac failure. Okay, so the disease is still considered uncurable, but there are a few new discoveries. In 2023, the FDA approved palovarotene soreness to reduce formation of new bone in certain patients, and basically a few days ago, okay, I looked it up, August 19th, 2026, FDA approved another medication for adults with FOP to reduce new ossification and disease flare-ups. So hopefully there will be more research, more different treatments, so we can cure all the diseases in the world. Okay guys, thank you for watching this video. Again, another very long video on my channel. I hope it was interesting. I wish you all the best. I wish you to never be sick with anything except for like a cold and maybe like fungus, because nothing can be perfect. At least have